in my opinion, like our responsibility is also to reconsider how we even interact with men, what role we want to give men in our life, and also to, again, like that's everyone keeps saying, oh yeah, I want an emotionally available man and I want a divine, empowered, whatever man. But then the minute they open their mouth and talk about emotions, women, some women, not every woman, obviously we don't want to generalize, but a lot of women still run on this old programming of how a man has to be in order to be, the perfect partner. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Perfect. I am a little bit tired still, but I'm good.
Good?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, thank you. Because this is absolutely phenomenal. I can't even
I'm excited for the stories.
even begin to comprehend what is really happening right now, but it's so divine.
Tell me all about it.
Right. For those of you that don't know, first of all, thank you all for tuning in. This is the pilot episode to Talks with Griff, and I have been blessed with the opportunity to have an amazing guest on the first episode. This lady is leading women down the divine path of their own truth, and it's so amazing. I'm gonna allow her to go into further detail exactly about what it is that she does, because she has absolutely helped me out in so many ways with just one session with this woman. Just one.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited to be the first person on your epic podcast, because I know it will be a big one. And so we kickstart off with an amazing interview between, two projectors talking to each other. It will probably be very expanding for a lot of people. But basically to introduce myself, I am Kathi and I'm an astrologer and human design guide. And I met Dorian in a reading, and then I screamed at him and was like, give yourself a voice, get a podcast out there, and here we are.
Man, guys, it was so beautiful, because finding you on YouTube in the middle of the night, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, just trying to find any information whatsoever about what it means to truly be a projector and how I can fully walk in that. And then out of nowhere, just, waited, and then I waited, and then I waited some more, and then your video popped up. And then once we got on the reading, we weren't even really, it was like half and half. We talked about the reading, and then we just branched off. We just took a left turn and just started going
I know.
everywhere. I don't even recall half the things we talked about, because it was all very relative. But I do remember you mentioning something about that session that we had is in relation to your book that's going to be coming out later, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. It was very divine, actually, because it was after the new moon in Virgo, and I just had this crazy night and so many downloads, and it was very much in relation to our conversation too. So it was really interesting how it was not just a synchronicity for you, but also for me, and just another confirmation. And also the very same day, I met up with two other guys, friends of a friend, and one of them was also a projector. And it was just so interesting, because it opened me up to, see for myself that I actually want to support men even more, not just women. And I have worked with a couple of male clients, right? And it's interesting, because the topic that we end up talking about is always, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and how we can align, right? How we can move forward. And also, I really stress the fact that it's not just feminine rising, female entrepreneurs, the divine empowerment, whatever. It's also allowing men to have a space where they are able to heal, especially because, little boys are conditioned to not feel emotions at all, right? And now that women are more empowered, it's like, if I step into the shoe of a man, it's like, what are you even doing on this planet? If you can't even, I feel like it's really challenging.
I completely agree. And that's one of the things that I noticed on my journey right at the beginning of this year. It's just that the the collective kind of smacked the divine masculine. It just stepped onto the scene and was like, we need you right now. This year is filled with healing, it's filled with sadness, it's filled with happiness, it's filled with an abundance of growth. And sometimes that can be very scary because you as men in society today, it's like we don't really know where to turn because you are when we are seeking help, it's perceived as we're weak because we're asking for help or we need guidance with something. And the fact of the matter is that society has just made us feel like that's a bad thing. Like we're shameful for that because you're a man. You're supposed to know exactly what it is that you are here to do. You're supposed to know how to put one foot in front of the other in a direction of where you're supposed to go. And that's just not the case because there's so much healing. There's so many old constructs. There's so many old childhood wounds that are our own, and there are also our parents that we have to deal with as well. And I just during our session that we had, I realized that there's just not any other way around it for men. And as much as we want to get past it and get to the end goal, whatever that may be, we have to really sit down with ourselves and look at those parts of ourselves that we are afraid of.
Yeah, and obviously I study a lot of the transits and astrology alongside with what's happening in the collective. That's also why, my readings, we talk about human design and astrology, but it always ends up being a therapy session or ends up being like, seeing the bigger picture of the world. And that's also how I approach astrology. And I think it's interesting that in 2020, we have a Mars and a Venus retrograde while the world is crashing and crumbling. So to put that simple, even if you don't know anything about astrology, Mars is the masculine and Venus is the feminine. And when you have a retrograde, it's reconsidering how we approach these archetypes. And it happens in the very same year, pretty much after first we had a Venus retrograde, now we have a Mars retrograde. It's like, how do we approach these archetypes? And it's not just, male and female, because a man has experienced the Venus retrograde this year and a woman right now also experiences the Mars retrograde. It's both, right? How do we think about these archetypes? How do we approach our own masculine and feminine energy? And that's basically the key to help us restructure the world, which is what also happens in astrology right now with, Saturn Pluto conjunction. And we can see what the effects of that were. It's like every single system is probably crashing and burning right now. So we can build a new world with new values and a new approach to masculine and feminine energy as well.
Right. And how both men and women can walk in their masculine and feminine energy, balance the two within themselves and walk in it how based on their own truths, not based on somebody else's perception of what they think the divine masculine or the divine feminine is. During our session, I told you that the divine feminine had done the necessary work, and the masculine is just sitting on the couch like, yo, like,
chilling.
Yeah, we just chilling. Like we don't know what's going on, and we have this major universal shutdown where that the entire world is doing shadow work, and there's no other way around it. I find that a lot of men really truly want to answer the call to being of service for themselves, to being of service for their women, to being of service for their children and the generation behind them, but they're just it's so difficult because they don't even feel confident enough within themselves to do it in a way so that way they can fully express themselves without fear of judgment. And I think that that's really crucial because as men, we make one wrong move and then society's like, no, you're doing it incorrectly or that's toxic masculinity. So we men just kind of cower back into their shell. They're like, okay, well, it's pretty much like how you said, if I'm not allowed to be a man and if I get ridiculed for attempting to do something based on my own authenticity, then what the hell am I supposed to do? Where do I go from here? Like, help me help the collective.
Yeah. And I feel like, I understand what you say about, men have just been like chilling, so to speak. But I would not necessarily say that women did all the work because women only did one side of the work, in my opinion. Like our responsibility is also to reconsider how we even interact with men, what role we want to give men in our life, and also to, again, like that's everyone keeps saying, oh yeah, I want an emotionally available man and I want a divine empowered whatever man, but then the minute they open their mouth and talk about emotions, some women, not every woman, obviously we don't want to generalize, but a lot of women still run on this old programming of how a man has to be in order to be the perfect partner. And I feel like that's also something we have to reprogram inside of us, right, as women, because otherwise men will never feel safe expressing their emotions because it's a risky business. One woman might react in a very positive way, and another woman is just like, okay, goodbye, I'm going to get the next bad boy because I want to fix them, whatever. It's like there's a lot of reprogramming that has to happen, I feel like, also in women still, because we were so focused on being independent, being our own leader, being, empowered. But again, like, empowerment also means to give the lead back to men again. That's empowerment. And it comes from a place of choice, right? I choose to allow my man to lead me because I know I could lead myself, but it's fun, right? To be led sometimes.
Do you think women are afraid to, I don't want to say relinquish that power, but really allow the man to play his role within the union of man and woman, whether it's marriage or relationship or just two people having a strong connection within the world today? Do you think women are just really afraid to allow themselves to be vulnerable within that aspect, to let their man lead them? Or do you think women are just in the headspace of men aren't able to lead me nowadays, so now I'm going to do what I have to do to lead myself, but at the same time still wanting that masculine energy around them?
I feel like intuitively there's a lot of wounded masculine energy in women, and that's what they act out. So a lot of women are angry, and that's a generational thing that even from it is in our DNA because we've been suppressed for so long. So we have to forgive a lot, right? And a lot of women are just not ready for that, to forgive, and that's why they act out like from such a wounded place, maybe not even recognizing that it's anger that sits inside of them. Because that's another thing, women have not been allowed to be angry, right? Even in the mythology of astrology, for example, Lilith, the angry one, is still like the black moon, oh my god, the evil queen, whatever. So it's like, it's interesting because we've never been allowed to be angry. And so I feel like, again, it's forgiveness on both sides.
Forgiveness of them, for ourselves and our childhood wounds as well. Like we talked about this before in the session. It's like you, before you can really allow yourself to be vulnerable with somebody else, let alone somebody who you are considering to be a lifelong partner, all of the quote unquote mistakes you've made as a woman and as a man, you the ego likes to beat yourself up for. The ego is that noise that's in the back of your head, but on the inside you have this inner child that's like, all I want is a hug. All I want is a little bit of acknowledgement. All I want is somebody to say that it's going to be okay. And it's really critical for us to give that to ourselves. We're so in the business of seeking it outside of ourselves that if we just take the time out to sit with whatever it is that we're feeling, we can have a better understanding of where it is that that emotion is coming from, so we can heal from it. So when it comes up again, we aren't sure that the woman isn't screaming and yelling at her man, because 9 times out of 10, that's just what it is. She's like, I'm hurt because of this. You just so happen to be like in the blender of that, but it's not the root cause of why I want to cry right now. That's all that it really is. It's just a really deep wounded emotional pain from something that maybe even isn't our fault.
Yeah, and again, even astrology supports that because we have Chiron and Aries. That's all of us collectively. We heal our inner child, Aries, right? And Chiron is the wounded healer. So we realize how many wounds we have from childhood, and because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, it's how we enter the world. We already enter the world with so many wounds from past lives, from so many past lives, from so many, we can't even, and it doesn't mean that we have to remember all of that. It really just comes down to understanding what emotions really are, and that we are not our emotions, right? We are, like, the way I approach emotions, it's energy motion. So it's energy that puts us into a certain motion. So from the perspective of source, it's just that these emotions lead us to lessons that help us expand the collective, expand the universe, because we learn through emotions, right? We learn, it's just receiving a frequency, a message, right? That's all it is. And it's the same thing with, we are also not our thoughts. The only thing we really are, when we even look at human design, you are the spleen, you are intuition, your resonance. That's what you are. And so that's interesting because we've been conditioned to believe that we can't trust our intuition, which we are our intuition, right? Yeah. But we can trust our emotions and we can trust our head. It's not really true. So that's another thing that we are learning to heal and to understand.
Yes, you brought up a good point about just really understanding what our emotion is and understanding that it's just energy within itself. I remember I would get so frustrated and so angry because not having the knowledge to really conceptualize what's happening at that point in time caused me a lot of anger. So it's like I would just sit there. It's like I know I'm feeling something, and I know I'm angry. And even then, we're talking like in between the ages of, let's say, like 8 and 17, I would be angry because I didn't have emotional literacy. I didn't understand how to deal with it. And I knew that it was something I had to deal with because the emotions are there to teach us something.
Yes.
And I remember just sitting there and just like, of course, being a boy or being a young man, it's like, okay, well, if I express this, then I'm wrong. So I would internalize it. And now I'm just sitting with this 100,000 bricks on my heart, and I'm like,
Yes.
how do I deal with this? How do I release this energy? And it took me a really long time to face that and allow myself to get comfortable with understanding that my emotions are valid because they're there for a reason. They're there to teach me something. They're there to teach us something at the end of the day.
And I mean that's something that we have to say, right? Because our emotions are ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is the ground teacher because we both have a Capricorn moon. And it's interesting, we recorded like today, we had our lunar return a couple of minutes ago actually, because we both have 17 degrees of Capricorn. And obviously that means we have to take responsibility for our emotions. And Saturn teaches you in a very harsh way, right? And that means for us, like we have to really sit down and do the homework to understand what our emotions are all about. And then we become wise in that area. And you and your human design, you are emotional authority as well, right? You are here to learn about emotions on such a core level, which I think is beautiful because you lead men. And I feel like that's the key element that men have to heal or understand in order to move forward, like what emotions are, because that's, again, something that men especially have never really been even allowed to think about, I guess, or to express. What are my emotions? What do I feel? So, yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to the saying of like, a boy falls, scratches his knees, like go get up, don't cry, be a man. But
Yeah.
we if a female, if a woman does that thing, our instant reaction is to give her a hug or make sure that she's okay.
Yes.
It's like if I think there was a study I saw once, or maybe it was a YouTube video that I was watching, but somebody I guess it was just a group of friends, they sat the woman on the bench and she was crying, and then they just basically studied how many people walked up to her to see if she was okay. And then they did the reverse of that, and they saw a man there. And I think maybe not even, it's been a minute since I've seen it, but let's just say for layman's terms, after about 90 minutes, it took another man to walk up to him to see if he was okay. And it's just like I I don't know if it's because people feel hesitant to approach a man when he's that vulnerable because they may not even know what to say. Or maybe it's just looked at as it's the construct is just so strong that a man is not supposed to do this, especially in public. If a man falls to his knees, like, oh, something is completely wrong with him, like he's in so much pain that I don't even know what to say because we haven't learned how to approach that situation.
And that's also, just thinking about that, I guess that's where a lot of violence comes from, right? Because I mean, I don't know any percentages, but I guess that men are more so violent and or criminal than women. I would just say so. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but I feel that also comes from the helplessness. Is that a word? I guess. So being helpless, right? Because you feel like I want to be seen. But sometimes I don't even know that I want to be seen. I know that something is missing. I actually recorded a podcast episode about emotional neglect and how that's a really, really interesting thing because you don't even know what you are missing, right? Because you've never learned that emotions are something that have to be addressed, have to be felt. Like you don't even know that you're missing someone. It's like a child is being born and has never learned that there's something like hugs. And you never know that hugs is what you are missing, right? So you're constantly searching for, something feels off. I'm missing something. I'm depressed because of something, but I don't even know what I need, because you've never learned that that's the missing key. And I feel like, a lot of people on this planet still walk around like that, not knowing that it's actually their emotions that they need to feel in order to feel better. And I also have a quote on Instagram that if you want to truly be fulfilled, you have to truly feel yourself. Right? That's fulfillment. You have to feel yourself.
Yes, that it's interesting that you brought up hugs because that got me thinking about something. I was having a conversation with somebody else, and you remember the time as a kid, everybody's hugging you, everybody's picking you up, and then it feels all good, and then one day they just put you down, and you're never picked up again. That does something to the psyche of a child, and it just transitions on the way out until we're adults, and that goes back to exactly what you were saying. It's like once we and something as simple as a hug, maybe like 3 a day, or maybe even one a day, because we got put down and we were never picked up again, our natural human state of wanting to feel that affection is so strong that we're willing to do anything to get it, even throw adult temper tantrums, if you want to
Yeah.
call it that, and just because we just at the end of the day, just hug me. That's it. That's all I need you to do, and like just really feel it.
It's true. And I mean, there are even studies that say, babies, like the first need that they have is physical touch. And there's also a term called touch deprived, like if you, that really causes an illness. So that's definitely true. And, then look at 2020 and we have social distancing and, oh my gosh, don't hug me, don't even touch me. I honestly, like, we love it better, but I feel like a lot of people have been like really traumatized by that, and I know I have private clients that are moms, and when the kids were sent back to school, obviously they don't know anything about what's going on in the world, at least not to the degree that we do. And so they were just acting normal, wanting to hug their friends because they haven't seen them in 2 months, right? And then the teacher was fucking like acting out all crazy, like, you can't hug her, like, what do you think? Like, oh my gosh, right? And the child was, I mean, I don't know what kind of teacher that must have been, but it's like so sad.
It's all the fear, and like I said, like children are so innocent. Of course, they want to show affection. They're just happy to see you, dude. You're good, man. I've been in the house with my mom. Like I don't even know about this one.
Yes.
My toys are getting boring. Like what have you been going on? What's been going on with you?
Yes.
It's from that perspective to the adult fearful aspect of what they've allowed to happen to them, to where that their fear is so strong that they're projecting it onto children who are so innocent, and we don't even know how much that can affect that child's life. Like, and it's interesting from that perspective too, because who knows what the world is going to be like once they become our age, you know what I mean? Like how that's going to affect their psyche. There's going to be so many different aspects of healing that they themselves have to do, even during this time as well. Like I can only imagine what it's like to be born in 2000, you, let's say like 9 or 12 years old, and then like you just got to wear this mask. Like if you're like, okay, I guess this is okay, I'm not really sure what's going on in the world right now, but something doesn't feel right, so I guess I'll do it. It's really strange. I notice them, but they still be themselves. They don't allow the mask to govern their feelings for their friends. Like they're just happy to see their friends. The mask doesn't give them fear, and I feel like we as young adults have lost a sense of that, have lost a sense of that innocence.
Yeah, and I'm glad that that child has a good mom, and I bet she talked to her. But I can imagine if a child experiences something like that, and it's a critical age, like that can shape that person for the rest of their life. They're like, oh my gosh, I get attacked if I hug someone, or if I follow my instincts, right? Or if I want to express my feelings towards someone, or whatever. It definitely can have an imprint. So I feel like, yeah, I mean, parenting has to happen too, right? And I feel like it will be a natural process, because the more adults heal their inner child, they will approach and see children in a completely different way too. Because I mean, I'm at the point where I'm like, children are so much wiser than we, like, especially the children that are born now. I mean, if I just look at the charts that they have, I'm like, wow, we can learn so much from them. I mean, so much.
They step in, they're evolved at a young age. Like already way past the evolution of where we were at, to where that, I remember you telling me, you're like, school is boring. I just want to save the world. I just want to do what I do right now. And then children are coming up like, this is what I got to do. Period.
I mean, just imagine, a child that has been born January 12th this year with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in their chart. They will be the rebel for all their life. Be like, fuck the system. Let's just break it all down. I mean, yeah.
In the land, and not even, what is the government? We don't even need the government. Who are them?
Yeah. Which honestly, I feel like in 20 years, when it's time for them to choose a job or whatever, the world will look completely different in 2040. I mean.
Yes. Yeah. Especially with this new era that's coming. What's your perspective on that? Because I know that is a very big talk right now within the collective and within the, I mean, I don't want to say spiritual community, because that can be taken in a different way, but it is a very intense topic, and a lot of people have their own perception of what they think that might be, or what they think might happen. So what, you being a master in astrology, what do you think is really happening above, and how do you think that's going to reflect so below?
So it's interesting. I just recorded a podcast about it. It just came to me because I was reflecting on the age of Pisces, which we are transitioning out of, so to speak, right? Because the ages in astrology, they work backwards. So we come from the age of Pisces, and what a lot of people talk about, oh, we enter the age of Aquarius on December 21st, which is not really accurate. It's just that Saturn and Jupiter are in Aquarius by that time, like at the end of this year. And that will already give us sort of like a precursor. But I feel like we will truly enter the age of Aquarius when Pluto enters Aquarius, just because Pluto is the soul. And Pluto is still in Capricorn until 2024. So it is a slow transitioning into the vibration of Aquarius. But if you look back at, again, the age of Pisces, which we are transitioning out of, we see that by the end of Pisces, everyone is the opposite in a way. Which what I mean by that is that, Pisces, you could think, oh, everyone at the end of the age of Pisces is like so spiritually awakened and like so connected to source, which is just started happening, right? But before that, everyone was completely Virgonized, I want to say. Like everyone is like, I'm not perfect enough. I'm not good enough. I don't even know what to do. I just constantly have to be OCD in my mind about, what the world expects me to do in order to not be judged. That's all Virgo. So we are all, little Virgos walking around on the planet and have completely lost track of source. And that only happened because the way the age of Pisces has been, I guess, programmed this time, because, who knows how the age of Pisces was last time, but this time it was really, the savior outside, religion, right? The Bible, and we have to follow the textbook in order to be good enough, in order to not be judged, in order to not fall into the trap of, oh my God, I'm not good enough, Virgo, and I will be judged, so I have to be OCD. And how are we OCD? We follow the Bible, for example. Like, Bible is just an example. It's just outside religion, right? Instead of seeing that we are God inside of ourselves, and no one will judge us because it's just that we judge ourselves and then. But anyways, what I wanted to say is that the age of Aquarius, I feel like, will be an overemphasis on technology. So basically, it will be one. Or let me just put it that way. Because the age of Pisces has been that way, at the end of it, we realize that really we see 2020 and that God that we have been following, if it's, religion or the government, actually didn't save us, because we are still in a shit show in 2020. Yeah. So it really didn't serve us. And so that's why a lot of people flip right now, right? They flip right now into understanding, oh, well, maybe I'm one with source. Maybe I'm Pisces. Maybe everything is connected. Maybe, there's a reason. Maybe there's a higher purpose. Maybe I have a soul. But like all of these things. Yeah. And so coming back to what the age of Aquarius will be for us, I feel like it will, and we will be in an awakening. And it's interesting because that's in alignment with the book that I'm writing. We will see that everything relative to technology was also just a reflection of our own abilities. It's the mirror that we needed in order to see, oh, I'm actually able to send someone energy all around the globe. Oh, I can actually not use Google, but ask my mind and I will receive an answer. It's just that I have to trust that. It's like, when people talk about the Akashic records, I say, yeah, it's Google. That's the Akashic records. Google is the reflection of what the Akashic records are. It's like the collective stream of all knowledge, right? Because we are at the point where Google literally tells you and answers you every single question. And that's what a lot of people think about the Akashic records. Like, what is my purpose? You can Google that. You can trust that. Or you can ask yourself, and then you can trust that. I mean, you decide who you want to trust, right? Yeah. And that's just what I feel like the age of Aquarius will be like. It will first be an overemphasis on technology. And then we talk about AI. We talk about all of these things, which we will definitely see. But ultimately, I feel like it will push us more so into the opposite, which is the sun, Leo, and understanding that we are unique on this planet for a reason. We have a special purpose, special destiny that is part of creation, right? Yeah. And that ultimately helps Aquarius, the collective, and the future. So that's a short, long recap.
No, that's beautifully articulated, because you find that, I would say that I started to notice it in the middle of 2020. A lot of people kind of started to, the emphasis was put on technology and communicating through technology, and homeschooling and trying to get that information across. But I feel like a lot of people, because they were forced to sit with themselves, it wasn't like we decided, okay, I'm gonna just sit down and I'm gonna ask myself these questions, I'm gonna see what's going on. It's like, no, you were put in a situation to where that everything that you would usually use to distract yourself now is one that is in the tips of your fingers more frequently than it used to be. And you have the opposite of that, which is you really trying to find out, why is it that I'm always scrolling? What is it that I'm seeking through on social media that I don't feel I have within myself? And then after a while, I feel like a lot of people started asking those bigger questions. They they started shifting away from Google. Like I don't really know what's going on because I can't even trust what the government is telling me right now. So let me just really just sit and see what's going on, because at a point in time we will come out of this cocoon. We will. And I think that some people may be, by going on Google very frequently, they're trying to rush the process of the metamorphosis. And you can't do that, because if a butterfly comes out of the cocoon too fast, what happens? You perish, your wings don't spread. So with the transitioning of the age, even though after the transition happens, I don't think people are going to be like, yes, I get it now.
Yeah, no.
It all makes sense. Like, oh my goodness, that shadow work, man. In March was really fun. I think that people will allow themselves grace more, and they will start doing exactly what you said. They will trust their own intuition when it comes to any decision that they make, whether it be, financial, whether it be business, whether it be within their relationships. They will really allow themselves to make a decision that they truly trust. Like, you can't go to Google and be like, should I marry this woman or should I start this
You
business?
can.
Okay, you can.
But people did that, like they go to astrologers and be like, can you tell me if I can marry that person? Am I compatible? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you have every single energy inside of you. You're compatible to anyone, and you can have the most compatible chart too, and you're not compatible because they are on a completely different, I guess, stage of awakening or growth. It really is such a spectrum that you can't tell. Like, if you feel attracted to someone or to something, well, there's a reason.
Right. And that connection within itself is there effortlessly. I find that you meet somebody and you connect with them, and it's just the conversation just starts to flow. You don't have to try to form a connection. Like, you don't have to be like, okay, let me ask the basic questions to see how deep I can go, because you and I, we already know, like, the minute they say one statement, we just fly off the handle at that point. It's like, okay, we got it. But some people, you got to kind of like really ease your way into it. And I just think that they don't trust that feeling that's within them. You know what I mean? Instead of allowing your representative to do the dating for you, present yourself as you are within grace. Like, either this person is either gonna have a connection with them, and if you don't have a connection with them, that's okay too. Just be grateful that you were able to exchange energies with that individual. It doesn't mean that you can't connect with anybody or that you are unlovable or anything of that nature. It's just, the connection wasn't there to that magnitude. That's okay. That doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you, because then, the ego starts blabbering off in people's head. But it all goes back to the intuition and truly feeling and knowing that if the connection is there, you don't ever have to question it. You'll just feel it. You'll see them over a screen, you'll see them in person, and obviously in person it's more amplified, and you can solidify it more in that way from other people's perspectives. But you just feel it, and that other people's perspective, they would say that, okay, well, how do you know that you have a connection? What is it about that man or woman that lets you know that you have the connection? And it's like, it's like Connect Four, man. You drop it in there, it all lines up. It just lines up. Like, you don't have to fight for it to line up. Right when you meet, boom, Connect Four, done. That's it. You don't have to try.
It's true. And, again, what you said too, it's just all about intuition. And also knowing that, that's why I love evolutionary astrology too. Jeffrey Wolf Green said that only 10% of the people you meet are new people. Everyone else is like, you know them from past lives. So for some people, souls decided, and in their contract, it's like, you meet at this exact time and moment. And, even consciously, you don't remember that, right? But then when you meet, you all of a sudden remember, or you feel something that's like, hey, well, that's weird. It feels like perfect. It feels like so aligned. And that's why, because you remember part of your blueprint or of your contract with source was to meet that person at that time, because you grow together at some point. Or you resolve karma from the past, or you just celebrate the growth that you both of you have made so far, and you come together and do that. There are many different reasons why we meet people, and everyone is there for a reason. Like, no one enters your life randomly, and also you are not on this planet randomly or by chance, by accident, because we take up space, and people take up space in your life, and that's not, space is really, really gracious or precious. So we can literally trust that every single thing. And it gets weird when you think like that, because literally every single thing, element, even the pillow on my bed here, has a reason.
Yeah, it's soft.
Yeah. And actually, the constellations are on that pillow. So yeah, of course, it has a reason.
Stars and every night you go to sleep. Every night you rest. Yeah, that's another thing too. It's like whatever or whoever is meant to come into your space, you will meet them, and that there's gonna be a lesson that you can learn from them. I always, at least more recently, I started equating myself to just being grateful for the people that I do meet, and it doesn't even have to be on anything besides acceptance, grace, and just full blown unconditional love of that human being. Like, there's nothing like being on a planet and then meeting somebody and you're like, how the hell did I not know you existed? But I know you exist now. And that's amazing.
Or it's more so like, oh, finally we meet, man. I'm waiting for you for my whole life. You took time.
Where have you been? You meet
I've been fucking waiting. Yeah. And I didn't know for what even.
Right. Just sitting here like at some point in time, whoever and whenever they're going to be, don't even know what I'm waiting on or who I'm waiting on, but it'll show up. And then when they do, you're like, God damn, man, it took you ages.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I do, in the category of relationships with people, I think that ultimately it goes back to unconditional love, and just truly accepting that person, that man or woman, for who they really are. I know from my experiences that I've made the mistake of loving somebody for who they were becoming, not who they were in that point in time.
Potential, yes.
Right, and that's not necessarily a good or bad thing, but it takes away from the moment between you and that person. Then, and then it really teaches you that even though you can see the potential within this person, or even though that person can see the potential within you, you're not at anywhere where you think you need to be based on potential. Like you're here now within this moment, and this moment within itself is all the potential that there needs to be, because you both aligned. You came together at a point in time where that it was necessary for both of you to do that, and within itself is beautiful.
That's so true. And, it also, I feel like, relates to our design. Being a projector, we can just see people's potential, and we are just so wired to bring it out of them, right? To help them, to guide them, right? Because we know, our role on this planet is to guide, but we have to wait for an invitation, right? Source created that really beautifully, because we can't just like put our guidance out there and expect everyone to follow, because people might not be ready. And it takes a lot of, experience to realize that, but also, especially because we are projectors, knowing that in the relationship area, it's tough. Because that's comes from my own experience too, because I tried to be the therapist, I tried to be the guy, I tried to be all of that, but it was not necessarily, it was trauma basically, because I always wanted to heal and guide my dad. So obviously I'm like, okay, if I ultimately heal my boyfriend, then it's kind of the same. Obviously I didn't do that consciously, but you know what I mean? It's just like so subconscious. And the more work you do and the more you realize that, you're like, oh, that makes sense. And then all of a sudden, once you realize that, you're not even attracted to people that you need to fix, or that you only see the potential. You are actually attracted to people that already are that, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just like, so, you don't need that anymore.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And I would even say that it's being in relation with those people that we may think that we want to fix and give that guidance to, our frequency is so strong that we just tap straight into what we see, because we just know we just want to like get in your brain and be like, just take these two things out. Just take it out.
Just let me rewire you for a second.
Let me shake it up.
All good.
With those people, I'm grateful for meeting them, because I know that we plant the seeds for them, and it'll grow to fruition within its own time. And it's not as much as we want to, and it hurts us, or at least it hurts me. I can't speak for you, but being a projector, we have the responsibility of guiding people down their necessary path of healing. And if they don't want it, we can't force it on them. And that that's where bitterness comes into play for us, at least for me, because it's like, man, just if I can just like really just get you to understand this one point, you'll be okay. But it's not our responsibility for them to do the healing for themselves. Like they have to want it first.
Mm.
Coming into alignment with those individuals that already have that resonance within themselves, that's even more of a beautiful thing as well too, because now we don't feel so pressured to be of a guide to them. We can just let them do their own thing and not feel like we have to necessarily be the therapist or be the one that's always taking notes, and anytime they do something that is true, we can be like, this is where you need to look at. You might want to look.
I know. Yeah, and it's if you approach a relationship like that, especially as a projector again, then you will be hurt twice at least, if not more, because first of all, you don't feel seen, and then you don't feel appreciated, and then you don't even, from your own perspective, you don't even get what you thought you would get, right? But it's like, yeah, it's like so much wounding and hurting for yourself and for the other person, because the other person feels like I constantly need to improve something in order to be good enough. You don't feel good enough because they don't listen to you. And it's just like a complete mess of hurting each other. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, you break up and you feel like, oh my gosh, I was not special enough. That was a big thing for me, for the person to change something. And I'm like, wait a second, like that's so weird. Maybe they're not ready. And that's where I didn't have unconditional love for whatever state. And now I can say, I've released that person. I'm happy for them wherever they are. I still love them. I appreciate and honor their journey. And it has nothing to do with me. I did everything I could potentially do for that person. And so, yeah, I did my job. And obviously I learned a lot of lessons in that relationship too, because that was like the biggest lesson for me to learn. Okay, I will never be the therapist again for partner. If I get asked and invited, that might be another story, right? Obviously, but I don't put stuff out there just for
just to
proving that I can, whatever.
Yes, it's that calling to want to help within us is so strong, and then within a relationship, that person 9 times out of 10, we just need to be with them where they're at, meet them where they're at. That doesn't mean that we have to dumb down our frequency. We may have to tune back on the guru master guidance aspect of it, and just really allow them to invite us into whatever it is that they truly want to know. That pull, like because I remember my ex, I would always give her, the same thing that I would tell her. I'd be like, the sky's blue, and she's like, I don't really know if the sky is blue. I mean, are you really sure? Let me see what's going on. 3 days later, oh my God, I was talking to this person, and he told me
the sky is blue.
And I was like,
holy moly, like I told you.
And then she would just look at me and laugh, and she's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, what do you mean what's wrong? Like, I gave you everything that you needed in that moment. And he's like, yeah, but I just want to make sure. I'm like, okay. I obviously I didn't see it in that moment, but understanding now, being a projector, I'm like, man, it's madness. It's I look back at it now and I laugh because I understand now, but that's just like, wow.
I mean, you have no idea how many stories like that I have in my life, where it's just like hilarious at some point. And whenever that happens now, I think about an old, kind of like Dumbledore from Harry Potter, like an old wise man that just smiles and says nothing. Because and that's like what happens internally for me. Maybe also Saturn. It's just like, okay, yeah, you arrived. Hey, welcome.
I'm gonna have to start doing that. That really is.
I know. Like, it's really genius.
It really is.
Yeah.
Come back and you're like, at least you got it.
Yeah.
That's gold.
Yeah.
That really is gold, because that really, that's the energy that's within us. You being a divine feminine, to circle it back, like you just being the goddess that you are. I would like to, at least from my perspective, I would like to envision the divine feminine as just this goddess who kind of just who sits with grace and elegance. She's not over demeaning, she's very nurturing, she's very loving, but she's also very powerful at the same time. So when she delivers her guidance, or when she invites you in to love her and experience her, she is just so profound that you're kind of just in awe at the end of the day. Like her guidance is so strong. It's almost like, I don't know if you're familiar with Game of Thrones, but I think like a lot of people have a bad rep for Cersei, but Cersei is kind of like the divine feminine, just on the opposite side. She may have been somewhat of a tyrant, that's debatable, but when you see her, you know right out the gate that the energy is within her. She's been walking in it, and the wisdom that she has is just passed down from generation to generation. And I just wanted to cycle it back to that. It's really interesting to think about, and that's how I like to envision it. And then each woman manifests that within her own way too. It's not, there is no book that dictates that this is how the divine feminine is across the board. It's just you as your own woman, as Kathi in your avatar, you embody that within your own way, and it's elegant and it resonates with you based on how you feel you go about operating within the world from that perspective. And it's all beautiful. Each one doing that in their own special way, and then that's what makes them extremely unique.
Yeah, and that's actually just, now that you say that, it brought me kind of like, I don't know, it just got me into, motherhood in general, and, that a lot of men have deep wounds relative to their mothers. And it's interesting, we can talk about the origin story probably for ages, if source is the feminine, the masculine, whatever it is, right? If it's the mother, the father, if everything comes from the womb, I believe that the womb is definitely, or like, yeah, everything originates in the womb. That's why women are so powerful, because we create everything out of nothing, right? And so the reason that men have so much wounding relative to feminine energy and mother is probably also the same thing, just like losing the connection to source, right? And so the more women step into that nurturing divine mother energy, I feel like, the more we can all reconnect to source, right?
Yes, that one thing, I think I told you this within our session, is that the woman is the beginning and the end. Everything stems from you, and as esoteric as that sounds, the more I think about it, and the more I just allow that thought to just float within the sea of my mind, it just gets more beautiful every time I think about it. There's so many ways that you can take that statement down, and I develop a true appreciation and gratitude for women on this planet and the divine feminine as well.
Yeah, because it's creation, but also whenever you create something, it means that there's something needs to be destructed. But at the same time, if something is destructed, something new is being created. And that's, the expression of women, I guess. We are messy and we are powerful, and we have not been allowed to be that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But this has been absolutely amazing. With this being the first episode, with this being the pilot, I would say that this has been fantastic. And there's really so many more to come. As you already know, you got to come back. You got to make.
I will. This will be a habit now. We have like a evergreen kind of like episode or whatever. I don't know. Whenever you invite me, I'm a projector, so.
Yes. So before we close it out, I want to, let's see how I can do this. This is the pilot. Tell the people where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you, and if you had one piece of sovereign advice that you would give to the listeners, what would you tell them?
I would say trust your resonance and intuition. That's probably the biggest advice that I have for everyone. And if you don't know what your intuition is, then definitely just go out, shut down from the world for a while, go in your own lockdown and find your resonance. And I think that's the key for life in general. And also knowing that the journey of life is always for you. You designed that, so you're always in control. Everything that happens outside of you, that you designed that. And so the key is to find out why, especially in the moments where you feel like, no, I didn't design that. Like, no, that's not possible. No, I would never do something like that. You did. So why? And then finding the lesson in that. Yeah. So, and if you want to stalk me, you can stalk me on Instagram, Magic Kathi Official. I also have a podcast, the Magic Kathi Show. I'm on YouTube, Magic Kathi. So wherever you type Magic Kathi in Google, right, coming back to Google, you will find something.
Yes, everybody, this lady is amazing. Look this woman up. At least just, give one of her episodes a listen. Go to her Instagram. She's always posting positive, sovereign energy. There's nothing but positivity that comes from this woman. She is without a doubt a force to be reckoned with within the universe. And she is making a very big dent within the collective and aiding not only women, but men as well. So I want to thank you for appearing. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward until the next time.
Me too.